Well, good afternoon, everyone. Sound check, you can hear me in the back? I feel like I'm at a Metallica concert here with, it's like standing room only. This is great. And I apologize to those of you who were born after 1985 who may not understand the Metallica reference. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Keith Willoughby, and I'm the Dean of the Edwards School of Business, professor in the Department of Finance and Management Science. As we gather here today, we acknowledge that we are meeting on Treaty 6 territory in the homeland of the Métis. I pay a sincere respect to the First Nations and Métis ancestors of this place, and especially I cherish and respect individuals who cherish the land for generations so that my ancestors, who are from the Ukraine, from Norway, and from the British Isles, could make a living on the land in Saskatchewan and in Manitoba. As a non-Indigenous man, I commit, as part of my act towards reconciliation, to listen and learn how I can better be an ally in this tremendous, tremendous effort. I acknowledge that there's an opportunity of reconciliation for us as a community and as a society, and I am grateful to be here in this wonderful opportunity today in person so we can meet for this tremendously important event. I welcome everyone to the Edwards School of Business, and especially welcome you to the 16th, let me say that again, 16th presentation in the Gordon and Maureen Haddock Entrepreneurial Speaker Series. This is an amazing, amazing event annually that we have in the Edwards School of Business. Entrepreneurs find solutions to problems. We have found a solution, finally, after the years I've been serving as dean. Every time in January, it was always like 35 below. This year, we've cracked the code. It's wonderfully great weather outside. It's not minus 35. And I am grateful to be here today to welcome you to an in-person, three-dimensional Haddock event. And a special welcome to all those of you who are visiting from out of town. Just show of hands, who's not here from who here is not from Saskatoon? Whoa. So thank you for bringing the population of Swift Current with us today. A special welcome to the future entrepreneurs who are here today as part of the Get a Bigger Wagon event, to their family members who are joining them today. I proudly wear this bracelet that was given to me years ago by a young aspiring entrepreneur. It's been a real symbol of the great and tremendous successes that are created by entrepreneurs past, present, and future. This afternoon, I have the pleasure of introducing Gordon and Maureen Haddock. Gordon and Maureen are great friends of the Edwards School of Business, both alumni at the University of Saskatchewan. Gordon graduated with a Bachelor of Commerce degree. Maureen is a graduate of the College of Education. The Haddocks give of themselves. They give of their time, give of their talent. They are true entrepreneurs. And having them develop the Gordon and Maureen Haddock Entrepreneurial Speaker Series is a tremendously fitting accomplishment for their lifetime of success and achievement in this area. They began this speaker series in 2007. Now, COVID might have canceled the Junos. COVID might have canceled the Canadian Football League, but COVID never canceled the Haddock Entrepreneurial Speaker Series. Even when we had to do in 2020, remember early in 2021, a completely virtual event with a very small number of people there, Haddock's found a way to succeed. That is the success of an entrepreneur. It's been said the best way to predict the future is to create it. And thank you, Haddocks, for helping us to create a better future. Thank you, all of you who are here today, as current and future entrepreneurs, for what you are doing to create the future that we all need. I'd like now to invite Gordon Haddock to come forward and introduce today's special guest, Miss Cindy Lowe. Gordon.
Yeah, it's almost unnatural to be outside and 13 below because every year it's 35 to 40 and then there's the wind. So must be the wind from Swift Current or something, that warm Chinook or something that came up. And you were talking about the COVID thing. We rented a building, I don't know, at the exhibition, 50,000 square feet, and there was about 20 of us so that we could all maintain distance, and we had to haul the money in a wagon across the room it was quite a promotion. But anyways, we accomplished it, and we never missed one. So, you know, it's our 16th annual Haddock Entrepreneurial Speaker Series. And what does that mean? Well, if you want to feel old, the first year students were 2 years old when we started this. The fourth years were just starting grade 1. And Dean Willoughby was celebrating the 2007 Saskatchewan Rough Rider Grey Cup victory. As some of you know, and as the Dean has mentioned, I was a commerce grad, and my life partner and business partner, Maureen, was an education grad. And this is an interesting and important combination for 2 reasons. One, the commerce entrepreneur was always finding and starting new businesses, but these businesses all had team members who needed to be constantly trained, and what better partner to have, and is one who had an education degree. So much of our business success over the past 50 years was driven by hundreds of well-trained and motivated team members. Secondly, I was the entrepreneurial, gung-ho commerce grad where decisions are simple. They're black or white. And my wife was one of those persons that got me to see both sides of all the different shades of gray. So it slowed me down, let's just say about that, on my decision-making process. Now our guest speaker, Cindy Lowe, is an amazing woman entrepreneur and educator who packs every minute of her long day with action. Not only does she have a commerce degree, but she also has a master's degree in education. She must constantly talk to herself as both sides of her mind analyze every decision she makes. Let's start this. Oh my, but what are the consequences of this? Who cares? Let's get going. But wait, there must be other things we can think of, ramifications, and so on and so on. I don't know how you do it. We do it as a team, but both sides of your mind must be very busy. So Cindy, along with her husband Will, own a cattle and grain farm, plus she teaches at the Comprehensive High School in Swift Current. She has won numerous awards, including 2 in 2022. She is the YMCA Woman of Distinction for Education and has just received the Queen Elizabeth II Platinum Jubilee Medal. She is president of the Saskatchewan Business Teachers Association. She's on the board of Polytech, as well as chairperson of the Great Plains College Board of Governors. She is a champion of financial literacy for all ages and still had time to raise 4 kids, and probably her husband will. Ladies and gentlemen, our 16th speaker, Cindy Lowe.
Thank you. Thank you, Gord and Keith Willoughby. Thank you, everybody, for being here today with me. I gotta say, this is a dream come true. I started in Edwards in 1992, 30 years ago. And so I just was kind of reflecting on my time, like, oh my gosh, that was my 30th anniversary of being here as a student where this kind of all began for me in financial literacy and education. I'm thrilled to see everyone here, and I'm thrilled to see students. We brought 42 students from the high school in Swiftcurrent, and I see lots of our alumni in the room today that I've taught over the years and that I funnel into Edwards. And I'm going to talk to the Edwards about a commission strategy structure later on the number of students I send here. But anyways, I'm thrilled to see you guys here. I think probably I'm preaching to the choir, because I think everyone in this room probably agrees with what I'm about to talk about. But I've got a little bit of an ask, and we need your help. And so I'm gonna lay out a plan, and I ask you for help at the end of my presentation. I like this saying because sometimes we feel like we can't change the world, we can't do big things, and I think this quantifies what I'm about to talk about. That every little one of us can, and we can make a difference, and that's kind of what my speech is about. Okay. We're good to go? Okay, just a bit about my background. When I left Edwards, I guess when it started, my career counselor, I grew up in Mancota, Saskatchewan. a child of entrepreneurs. We had a grocery store, cattle, ranch, and farming, and my parents tried everything. They're entrepreneurs above them. My grandparents, my grandfather was the oldest of 12, and he raised 12 of his own children. He put 3 of his brothers through medical school by owning businesses. So he actually owned a grocery store, a mechanic, he was a farmer, and he started the Caisse Populaire, which is a credit union in Fairland. And so I'm a product of entrepreneurs all the way back. And I think that's, kind of the skills that I want to talk to you guys about today, is that we don't lose that, even the spirit of entrepreneurship. When I talked about what I wanted to do as a career, my career counselor said, well, you're good in math, go into commerce. That was the extent of career planning. You guys have all kinds of career planning now. So I started in Edwards and graduated in 96 and I majored in finance. I am totally jealous of that room over here, you guys, that trading room. When I walked in and saw it for the first time, I thought, where was that when I was here? So the opportunities you have here to learn about business and finance are endless. And so I was set on selling finance and investments. And I took my securities course and I started working for the Royal Bank. And I quickly found that a lot of my customers would come in and I would talk to them about saving and investing, and they didn't know what I was talking about. So I'd spend my whole hour-long meeting explaining the index chart and the historical returns of the TSX and what the TSX even stood for, and realized at the end of my hour I had made a sale. And my job was essentially salesperson, that I was more of an educator. And so over the years, I also was dismayed by the level of debt that was coming in my door. In fact, I talked to them about saving, and they put me off, let's wait for something, and there were debt levels were rising. I distinctly remember a couple that refinanced $75,000 in credit cards on their house because houses in Saskatoon at Lakeridge had gone up in value and they opened up some equity. The HELOC program, which is Home Equity Line of Credit, had just begun, and people were borrowing against their house like it was an ATM. And so, nobody wanted to save. And that was in the 90s. We see things far worse now, and I'll review some of those things. So I realized I need to teach this. Why are people coming in my door not understanding what this is? And so I left a career in banking and went to, my husband, we got a job in Alberta at the time, so I went to U of C and took my education degree. And I worked at some high schools and moved around, and we ended up moving back home around Kyle to farm. And so I got a job, I was fortunate to teach at Great Plains College, their business certificate program. So I taught 11 of the 13 business classes, and it was an amazing experience for 7 years, but a very captive audience. They chose to be there. And so I thought, I need to teach more people this. And so fortunately, a job at Chinook School Division came open. I've been there 10 years now, and it's honestly my dream job. We have 1,000 kids in the school, and I'm able to teach financial literacy, and previous to that was accounting before finance became a class. I'm also president of the Saskatchewan Business Teachers Association, and our mandate is to develop future business leaders. And Margot's here with me from the organization, and we're proud to represent business teachers and grow business education. So this forum for me is an amazing experience and kind of something full circle for me as I come back to Edwards 30 years later. So. I'm also an entrepreneur. He mentioned farming. We have cattle. I understand the risks that entrepreneurs take, the struggles that they take, the perseverance. We've got long days and in cold weather, hours on our feet working with cattle and harvest. My husband is president of Saskatchewan Cattle Feeders and vice president of National Cattle Feeders, and we both give back to our industries. And he made it today. Usually he's on the farm, and so thanks for being here. It's not always easy being an entrepreneur, especially not easy being a farmer when we have Mother Nature that kind of works against us sometimes. And so we've endured 3 years of drought. The top right picture is a crack by our bins that was as wide as my shoe. It was so dry. The bottom right picture is what was left of our canola crop after gophers dug up the seed. We had drought, hail. It didn't finish it off, grasshoppers and crickets came along and took the rest of the crop. So, we understand what it's like to persevere. I think we've been farming since 1995, and, you stick it out. And so that entrepreneurial spirit is within us, but it also needs to be within our students too. I just had to throw in this picture here. This was me yesterday. I took some time off from writing my speech to do chores while my husband was coaching hockey, and as I'm on my phone, which I shouldn't be, but it's a good road, we're going slow, well, it was sheer ice, and I right into the ditch, 1 second. And so right when you talk about overcoming struggles, it's like, are you kidding me? I needed to get home, do my speech, get ready, and thankfully a neighbor was watching out his window and saw that my truck looked a little crooked and kind of low, and pulled me back out. So that's what we do, right, as entrepreneurs. And I can't wait to meet the entrepreneurs in the room that are winning prizes, because you guys understand the trials and tribulations of owning your own business and overcoming struggles, and so do I. I'm going to talk today about in a case format. So we teach, with the Sketch and Business Teachers, we hold an annual case competition. It's the 10th anniversary this year, and we're proud to host it in between Edwards and the U of R and U of S. So Paul Hill School of Business is hosting this year. Edwards hosted us last year. And we're planning the 10th anniversary. I invite all of you to come. It's the first weekend in May, and the next year we'll be back here at Edwards. And so what we teach primary topics are entrepreneurship and finance. We give the students cases, they analyze the situation and come up with solutions. And so I'm going to present in a little bit of a format like we teach our kids, so you see a little bit about what we do with our students. So I'm going to state my problem. So the problem statement here today is that I believe, the lines got done. I converted it from Google Slides to PowerPoint, so if things look a little wonky, that's why. Anyway, so my problem statement, financial literacy and entrepreneurial spirit are must be. I said are, but I think it's going to change that to must be, prerequisites for life. I believe that Saskatchewan students need to be provided the opportunity to take a financial literacy course. They need to have this as a high school requirement in some form, some way or another. And then our problem, further to that, is we need trained teachers to teach it. And when I say trained teachers to teach it, people that understand it so they can put emotion into it. I'll give you an example. My first year teaching, in the interview, they asked me if I could teach Physics 20. Well, of course, I said yes. I wanted the job, and I did a terrible job. And there was a teacher who understood physics, and I did not. And the students were like, how come we're not doing experiments like Mr. Rwanowicz's class? I'm like, because I don't know what I'm doing. So that's the same in business education, right? People are daunted by the topic themselves. Everybody is a consumer, and you think could teach it, but it's not. There's lots of aspects to it. The new curriculum has 47 outcomes that we've developed, and so we need trained teachers to teach it. So those are my asks. I'm going to come back around to that at the end of the speech. I'll just give you some background on what kids need nowadays to graduate. And again, please don't take it as a slight of anything we're doing. I just see an opportunity for change, okay? And I'll state why. But right now, the students need 24 credits to graduate. 5 of them are in the English language arts, 2 in 10, 1 in 11, 2 in grade 12. 2 math classes, 2 science, 3 social science, a health class, 2 practical and applied arts classes, and then 9 electives. In those electives, you can choose basically from over 100 or so classes that we offer. The 2 practical and applied arts are made up of 47 different choices currently. And I was part of a renewal committee, a ministry committee that revamped some of these classes, so there's a few duplicates as the old ones drop off and the new ones come in, but currently there's 47. I pulled out the ones that relate to business education, and so we have 3 levels of accounting. We developed another level of entrepreneurship. We developed marketing, which was new this year, and then career and work experience, where the kids do experiential learning. 2 financial literacy. We initially proposed 1, and the ministry came back with 2, which we were thrilled with. Quite frankly, I think we need it right down to age of 6, like the entrepreneurs we have here today, but we'll settle with 2, and life transitions. Now, strongly believe a few things about financial literacy. When I talk to people about learning about finance, once they start to discover financial planning and life planning, it turns into what kind of lifestyle do they want, what kind of career do they want, and they start thinking about career planning. It opens their eyes to, I really should think about my future. We do long-term goals. What's your 5-year plan look like? And they start to think about a career. Once they start to think about a career, we got them, right? Then they start thinking about education and planning of that and what courses should they take. I truly believe financial planning, family planning's in there too, right? Oopsie, we have a baby come along. That impacts your financial status, your career planning. You can no longer go to school. What does your family plan look like? You're going to have a spouse or children, take care of elderly or family. Where are you going to live? And then all of that, built into all of that, is wellness, mental wellness specifically. We see, my time at the bank was long enough, 7 years, for me to see great distress with finances. I was with the bank from 95 to 2001. I worked in Foam Lakes, Saskatoon, High River, Turner Valley, and Calgary. And Calgary was Mecca, right? It was, there was, everybody was buying. The oil and gas industry was hot. I would work, when I went back to my education degree, I would work a Thursday night and a Saturday shift for the Royal Bank. In 3 hours, from 5 to 8 p.m., I would see 7 to 8 credit clients. overdraft, line of credit, Visa, refinance, overdraft, line of credit. It was a revolving door. My manager would come to my door, can you see someone else? It was just, and then the stresses, right? All of a sudden, guess what? The oil industry is the most volatile industry in the world. So you go from making 300,000 to zero. And then you're like, you feel like a failure because you can't make their debt payments. So mental wellness is embedded in all of that. And then the other thing is everyone in this world earns, spends, borrows, saves, invests, and shares money. Everyone. This is not unique to Saskatchewan. This is not a Canadian problem. This is a national problem, a worldwide problem. And I'll show you some stats about what's happening around the world too. So let's do some current situational analysis. In my case, I'm going to talk initially about financial literacy, what it looks like and what we teach. Who knows what FOMO and YOLO stand for? Nice and high. Okay? Who doesn't, I should ask. Right? We see the change in demographics. So FOMO. What does FOMO stand for? Someone that raised their hand. Fear of missing out. Can you see how that becomes embedded in spending? Right? We're all on our phones. Millennials are particularly hit hard because you see what people are wearing. You're seeing the trends. You're seeing, I want that. Right? You don't want to miss out on that. Everybody else is doing that. And they attribute that to debt. Look at that. 70% of people in the survey attribute a quarter of their debt to just FOMO spending. Right? That you see what they have and you want it. So you don't want to miss out on what other people have. FOMO can also be blamed on crypto, the crypto craze, which I'll come to in a second. And so we have pressure to spend, and you don't want to miss out on that. Now, don't be entirely sorry for people that incurred their debt, because that last statistic, 38% of Canadians wouldn't give it up. Wouldn't give up social media, won't put it down, right? They won't stop looking. And our phones are listening to us. They're hearing what you're talking about, a pair of shoes, and it's showing up in your ad. The analytics are there, right? And so they're suggesting what you should buy, and then you see it and you should buy it. And so that's contributing to our debt problem. And then YOLO, what's YOLO stand for? I keep leaning into this, but it's actually right here. You only live once. Well, I couldn't help but look up the tickets to the hottest hockey game that we had lately. I think this one is fake news. It says 1.1 million for a ticket in section 36. I found that on Twitter, and I actually think that's fake. I can stand over here. I keep thinking I'm leaning into this mic. This is new. We need this in my classroom. Somebody here from Swiftburn? Yeah. I don't know if 1.1 million for that ticket is real or not, but either way, the tickets were $30,000, upwards of 30. And the resellers, right, drive it up. The you only live once mentality, Mrs. Lowe. And kids have told me that, oh, Mrs. Lowe, it's boring. Savings, no fun, right? You got to put stuff off. But what happens, if you have $30,000 for a ticket, that's fine. Spend away. It's the people that don't and put this on credit and think, I want the experience and it's worth that debt. And then you're paying, that could have paid for, several years of school. There's a sizable down payment on a house, a vehicle, right? And for that ticket. So that does trouble me when I see this, and hope that everyone in that crowd paid for that with cash, because I experienced it at home for free in my couch. And so you don't want that. I call it a financial hangover. There's probably a hangover after the game anyways, but a financial hangover, it hurts badly for years to come when you're paying that off. The other one I wanted to touch on, of course, coming up in February is the Super Bowl. I always talk about the Super Bowl. We look at the ads. An ad this year, I always have to update what the number is. Last year was 5.6 million for a 30-second ad. This year it's 7. Inflation's hit the Super Bowl ads too, right? Check out the Doritos ads if you have time, especially the one where she's having a baby. It's priceless. But anyways, the tickets here now are currently on sale for upwards of $20,000 a ticket. This is for sale. And then never mind when they come to the resellers and they start going. So again, if you have the money to spend this, I have no problem. It's the people that are getting into debt for this YOLO experience, you only live once, that troubles me. So how are we doing in Saskatchewan? So back, MMP, I follow them. They give a great job in detailing the financial situation. This was when times were good, okay? Nobody knew what was happening at this time. So back in 2019, we weren't faring very well. Manitoba and Saskatchewan were actually the worst in the country, and $200 away from insolvency, from bankruptcy. And so that's how tight people are living, paycheck to paycheck. That's scary in itself alone, right? What if your car breaks down? You're 1 month away from not being able to pay your bills, and it's a trouble. So we saw the statistics back then were difficult. Now, at the bottom line also was part of the survey, fewer than 1 in 3. So a third of people felt like they couldn't survive a life-changing event. I wonder what was coming, right? The pandemic. And so you won't get a greater life-changing event than what we've been through. And so people, when they say save for a rainy day, there's no rainier day than what we've been through financially in the last 2 years. Health crisis alone, I'm not going to talk about that. We did what we had to do to save lives. But financially, people just weren't ready. There's no savings, there's no plan, and they're on debt. Right? Just YOLO, living for the moment and not expecting what's going to happen. So that was in 2019. Fast forward, they just came out with a consumer debt index report about affordability, and so it's worse. And this is specifically Manitoba and Saskatchewan. The people are not able to bathe for their basic necessities of life. In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you study that, the bottom line is basic human needs. We spend most of our money just on that, never mind self-actualization and all the other fun stuff. And the bottom line is just getting by and feeding and living. So almost 50% across the board find that unaffordable. And then the last statistic, we know that was coming, right, when people lost their jobs and we closed down businesses and people started to incur debt just to live. Bankruptcies are up the highest rate of increase in 13 years. So I don't know, when I left banking, somebody told me that's in banking, if you thought it was bad when you left in 2001, it's worse now. And so, I'm hitting the alarm bell here. That's why we're here today to talk about this. This needs to change. And change fast. The average debt for Canadians is about close to $2,500 per month. That's per month. So in a credit card, you're supposed to pay that off in 29 days or 21 days, whatever your grace period is. Are you making $2,500 a month to bring that back to zero? Because if you're not, you're paying 29%, calculated daily, compounded monthly, to perpetuity. In fact, a little known secret is when you look and it says it's going to take you 243 years to pay this off, they actually charge. So if I charge something today in January and I don't pay it off till March, but I continue to spend, but I make payments, the interest is accumulating on that charge in January. I lose the grace period until I zero it out. So people think, well, I'm paying it down, so it's $500 less than I'm paying interest on. No, it's not. If you look in the fine print of the credit card, you're not. And so I also know, I'm not here to slight the Royal Bank. My experience there was amazing for myself. But I also know that's how we made money. And so we make most of our money on credit products. And the two biggest products we make most of our money on is credit cards and mortgages. In fact, I looked up the net profit, which is Royal Bank's a publicly traded company, $15.8 billion last year off of credit mostly. I mean, we can look at where their income's derived from, but most of it's credit. And I had a boss who said to me, Cindy, they don't leave your office without a credit card. Like every student should have a credit card, right? You guys, I was telling my students, we were walking through the tunnel, I'm like, you're fresh meat in the fall, because all those guys want to sell you credit cards, right? Get that first credit card in your pocket. They want to give it to you. So because you're tempted, you don't have a lot of money. And so I actually disagreed with him. I said, I don't feel ethically well selling credit card to students because I know how broke I was. I had 3 part-time jobs, and if you'd offered me a credit card, I had one, but I knew that I did not have the means to pay it off next month. My friends might have gone on trips and done whatever and thought it was free money, but I didn't agree with selling a student a credit card. I didn't agree with that statement. But, I mean, that's what's happening, right? You can get pre-approved. I saw a story in the States, somebody's dog got a credit card. I know students have told me their first visa had a $2,500 limit. Why does a student have a $2,500 limit? They don't make that much a month. And so we see debt levels out of control. Garfield, who doesn't love Garfield? So they bought this hat. So what this is on the bottom, do you guys know what these are? What are they? So they're Afterpay, Affirm, PayBright, and Klarna. Have you heard of them? What are they? Financing. Buy now, pay later. So you don't even need a credit card. You can go shopping, and on checkout, it gives you an option. How do you want to pay? This software is embedded in the online store, and so you can buy now, pay later. So you can finance your clothes if you want, or which stores. Have you bought from, you're nodding, does anyone know what stores? They're out there and they're embedded in the websites that you shop at. So this is alarming, right? But of course people would do this. They know that people want to buy, they want to sell you stuff. That's the goal of the business. And they don't really care if you don't have the money for it. And I shouldn't say don't really care, I don't want to sound empathetic, but they want to help you buy that product. So here's a way to do that. And even though you're maybe financing something you can't afford either. So that's out there. Just a few things. Bed Bath & Beyond just announced bankruptcy proceedings here. I had to throw that in. That's a recent development. We see high 17% of businesses considering bankruptcy or permanent closure due to financial reasons. So the finances, we need to help people in terms of businesses. I really, I'll come back to this, but think that small businesses includes tradespeople. The students I'm bringing today, and the students maybe studying business, are inclined for business. But where are our tradespeople, our entrepreneurs, our hairdressers? They're starting, they're business owners. Massage therapy. My friend's daughter was a hairdresser. She told me, first of all, what an eye-opener, because she had to do her invoicing, her GST remittance, her payroll. She just was income statement. She didn't even know what that was. So we're leaving our tradespeople hanging because they need the skills too. One of my friends, was a construction person, and he derived his income, right? If he worked, he got paid. Well, he fell off a house and broke his back, and 6 months without work, he declared bankruptcy because he had no emergency savings and no one's paying him sick leave while he's off. So, we got to train our business people too on finances. Crypto is a current event that we want to talk about. Have you heard of FTX and the bankruptcy? So I want to touch on them because I'm going to tie this to Super Bowl. Last year, there was for sure 3 crypto ads. FTX was one of them. They had a full-minute ad, which means they blew close to $15 million on that ad. And so Sam is 30 years old. He started this in 2019. So 3 years ago in May, and built his net worth to $32 million. How he built it so quick, but basically crypto is you take real money and invest it into crypto trading platforms. I'm going to totally not get everything right. Young people in the crowd can maybe explain crypto. I've purposely avoided it because it's far too speculative and risky for me, but it's a thing, right? So he built up his net worth. He had celebrity supporters, you see, supporting it. And well, guess what happened? He's now been charged with 8 criminal counts, could spend 155 years in jail because he couldn't keep his hand out of the cookie jar. Basically, it's a Ponzi scheme that he took people's money and then put into crypto and then took it out for himself. And they figure about $7 billion US is lost due to this fraud. Sam, the guy here on the bottom, $2 million he put in. Like, why are people putting this kind of money in there? And so it's terrifying to think that this is a speculative, high-risk investment. When I studied investing and took my securities course, this was like on the last page, right? Speculative, high-risk investments. Don't touch, put 1% in if you're going to. And so now $77 billion has been lost or frozen and probably won't come back. So crypto. This is one of the topics. Besides this kid being super cute, this is a TED Talk. I've got a few TED Talks I want to suggest you watch. But in financial literacy, one of the things that I'm getting at here is delayed gratification. Can you wait, right? We're in an instant society, instant messaging, instant coffee, instant food, instant everything. And we're taught that, we're led to believe that that's how it is. And it's fun, right? We like instant stuff. But it's hard to wait. You can buy now, pay later to get whatever you want. But we encourage our students to wait, to help to resist temptation. So this TED Talk is actually, they theorized that would that lead to successful kids? And so this little guy, they put a marshmallow in front of kids, and then if he could wait 15 minutes and not eat it, they would give him a second marshmallow. And they followed these kids to adulthood, and they found they were more successful down the road because they understood very young that if I resist temptation, I'll be rewarded. And that mentality, that mindset, is something we try and teach in financial literacy. Now, it was cute. The video, the TED Talk, if you look it up, there's kids that would smell the marshmallow and just, want it so bad and put it down. There was a girl that ate the inside of the marshmallow and put it away, and got to watch her because she's probably going to be sneaky. But and there's some that, like, as soon as they walked out of the room, boom, right in their mouth, right? They couldn't resist. So it's just an indicator and something kind of we talk to our kids about waiting and not buying it on credit. Now, wait till you have the cash. Like, do you have the cash to pay for that TV? Right? Why don't you wait 2 years to buy the TV? Nope, we want to put it on credit right now. When things get drastic, put it on plastic. And so that ability to wait. This one is the beast of all credit products, payday loans. If you watch Netflix, there's a series called Dirty Money. There's a couple of them, really good videos, but this one, the video is called Payday. So who took my class and watched this with me? Okay, it's a good one. Yeah, see, I'm kind of repeating my story, so forgive me if you guys have heard, but I think if you hear it 3 times, you'll likely to remember it. So it was a good one, and went through the devastation caused by payday loans. They hide the fees. They don't call them interest rates because it's illegal to charge 300%. So they embed it as fees, monthly fees. and it accumulates to about 300% on what the people have borrowed. And now what bothers me the most about payday loans is they're usually preying on low-income people. They're doing hi Maureen, nice to meet you, see you again. $300, $400, $500 loans that they're financing. And then people, obviously too, are not financially literate, right? Perhaps bad credit, preying on people, and then they're finding themselves paying for months, if not years. A $300 debt turns into a $900 loan that they pay back. It's 300%. And so I'm going to say when we came into Saskatoon, I purposely counted one time. I counted 8. So Cash Express, Money Express, Fast Money, whatever they're called, they're all the same. And there's at least 8 on 22nd Street here in town. There used to be one Swift Current, but I ran it out of town. No, I'm just kidding. They're no longer there, but I was going to go talk to them. So the other thing, right, keeping up with the Joneses, we talk about net worth. And, I have 2 scenarios here. One family has $1 million worth of stuff and assets, right? Looks like lots of stuff. But the debt levels is what we have to consider in terms of wealth. Wealth isn't just what you see. The net worth of the first scenario is $100,000 once they pay off all their debt. But they look wealthy. They have multiple vehicles, they have homes, maybe 2 homes, toys, and all the things, but they have the debt. And so the net worth they only realize is as $100,000. The scenario 2, perhaps less flashy looking assets or less valuable assets, but done a good job of paying back their debt. And so they have a net worth of $350,000. So wealth is not what you see, right? It's what is this, right? What you can realize from your assets once you pay off your debt. I actually saw this at the bank. The people you least likely to think that have wealth have gotten all the wealth. We had a farm customer. Honestly, you walked in and thought, oh, okay, what do you guys want? But they had a big bank account. Anyways, they did well at accumulating wealth. And I heard that this is sort of folklore, I guess, that the wife would go out and cut the wheat stalks around the power poles to get every last kernel into the bin. And then the ones that look flashy, perhaps, are riding on a pile of debt. So be careful. We like to talk about home ownership. I've shown this picture before. This is in the news. That house was listed for $1. And it's a mentality to try to drive up a bidding war. And so this same house, it doesn't look like much actually, but it's nice inside. It's pretty cute. But would I pay $1.2 million? I don't know. 2010, it sold for $320,000. So what worries me is housing affordability. How are kids going to buy homes, right? Stay in Saskatchewan for one. It's cheaper cost of living. So I hope you guys all stay. But, the government came out recently. I was meeting on the weekend with my SAS business teacher people, and we were planning our event, and Connie mentioned the tax-free first home savings account. I don't have much information besides what she told me, but basically takes a TFSA, so the investments go tax-free, and the contribution is tax-deductible, so the best of RSP and TFSA. Now, I think she said a $40,000 max, and you have to be only a first-time home buyer to do it. So there's details there, but it's an effort to help people buy a home. The house still costs $1.2 million, but housing affordability, mortgage payments, how can you pay it off faster? The biweekly accelerated option where you can lose like 7 years on the average 25-year mortgage. I probably sold 99% of my mortgages were biweekly accelerated, and they didn't even know what it was, and then I explained it, like, what, 7 years less? Sure, sign me up. But I know bankers don't always know that because I myself have a mortgage and I had to ask for that, and the person I was dealing with didn't know. So I explained it to her and I'm like, just put it bi-weekly accelerated. And she's like, oh, that's a new product. So, people don't know these secrets until we maybe teach them. Financial planning is a big part. So when we developed the curriculum, I like this one here, the chance of winning a lottery, and I'm not joking, I had customers' financial plans. I worked with Kelly, and Kelly was adamant she was winning lottery. It's not when, and we're like, sure, Kelly, you're winning. She goes, no, I am. Well, she's very mad if you made fun of her. And then the other one, right, and wishing for inheritance or money down the road, that's also not a financial plan that's worth counting on. So we talk about financial planning. Sorry, yeah. One of the aspects of financial planning, when we developed the curriculum, we talked about, should we include retirement planning to high school students at your age? Yes, I said yes, we should. Because we know the sooner you start, the more likely you are to accumulate wealth. We can't learn this at 30. You can't walk in at 40 and try to make up time. So in this scenario, we have twins. One started at 22 and saved $40 a week for 9 years, so invested $18,000 of their own money at an 8% rate of return with the rule of 72. That's 9 years to double. They're starting to double by the time the other twin is just getting going, has 0. So if this person mathematically stopped, they accumulated $398,000. And the other twin saved $40 a week for 35 years and never caught up. Through the magic of compounding, find an investment that makes 8% return, and you'll match this. And I would explain this to clients, and I think this is what was really deflating for me and why I wanted to teach it, is they always told me, oh, wait, I got bills, I'm paying kids. Like, they always had an excuse to wait. And I've told this story before, but I'm going to say it again. When I was at the college, one of my classes was mathematics of finance. So we do the math behind an annuity. So if I'm 21 and you save to your 60, 55, how much do you have on deposit to last you 40 years for life till you're 95, and do like a life plan. And so, okay, work backwards. This is how much you need on deposit at 65, and here's how much you need to invest at 21. And so we're doing the math, and I had a student kind of sitting in this corner of the room, and she was silently crying over there. So I asked her, and she was 42, newly divorced, taking a first-year business class, so she had no education and fairly low-skilled. And so I asked her after what was wrong, and she said, I can't believe what I didn't know. She was devastated because she didn't know this. She's like, why am I just finding this out now? And I think that's when I was like, whoa, we need to go teach this younger. We need to go younger even more. Because there's no reason why she should just be finding this out now and not knowing sooner. And she was devastated. She's like, how am I ever going to retire? We actually did the math for her to retire. So I think the initial scenario was $350 a month at 21. She'd have to put $1,250 a month to catch up. That is out of her reach. That was completely unaffordable for her. And, looking at lifelong, like, when is she going to retire? Can she afford to retire? Right? She's finding out right here and just at zero, right? There's no reason why she should be finding that now. So that's why, we need to teach this. Have fun talking about where to invest and understanding risk and return, risk and reward, right? That's where we sneak in the whole crypto speculative investment stuff. Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors of all time, right? GOAT, I should use the lingo, hey? So GOAT, he talks about it being a marathon, not a sprint to investing, right? Long, passive investing for growth over the long term. And so we have I have an investment game we do with our class. So that it's a stock market game. The kids can buy stocks. It probably develops into a bit of an addiction for some. Hey, Aiden, where are you? There you are, yes, for some. And turn it into real life, though, too. That's what I want, is to turn it into real life. I did have a student. I know he probably had, was addicted to the game, and I think he'll do just well. At that year, I gave $100,000 to the students. He turned into $1.3 million by the end of the semester. I think I'm going to invest with him once he graduates from Edwards. I think he's here. So that we have lots of fun talking about this. Sometimes it becomes a distraction because we have to talk about more than this. But certainly they don't go out in life not knowing what the stock market is. They know already. And that's one of the things I spent tons of time talking about in my office. The whole pension, I won't call it a pension problem because pensions are great. We have tons of people in pensions, educators, federal government employees, healthcare. I'm in a pension, and so I pulled off my report just on the weekend. So my pension is locked in until July 2029. I cannot access that money, and so my issue with that, it's a great savings plan, but what if I need $10,000 next month? What if I need $50,000 next month? What if I have an emergency, like a pandemic, that I lose my job and need to access savings? And people are not putting money into emergency funds outside of, because we invest in our pension heavily, but what do I have in case I need it? Credit. That's what happens, is people turn to credit to bail themselves out. So even people with fine pensions need to be thinking of savings too. And taxes. Who doesn't love to talk about taxes? I think probably this is the number one request in public about kids need to learn how to file taxes. I'm like, they do. They learn it in Finance 30. Right? People say that to me all the time, like we actually teach it. So I like this one. We prefer to take a portion of our kids' candy at Halloween because we have to teach them about taxes, and taking a third away. But I actually have a little story. So at the bank, of course, when we did loans, I required the income tax reports. And so I had a customer, I distinctly remember this guy. He was a business owner, seemed to be good, and wanted to, I think, loan for a truck or something like that. I said, it sounds great, everything looks good, I'll need your 3 years of income tax. He looks me flat in the eye and says, oh, I don't believe in income tax. And I'm like, I don't think that's a belief. Actually, I think it's the rule. Like, it's the Income Tax Act, it's federal government, I don't know. Seems to me like nothing, it's like not believing in not plating your car. I think that's something we have to do in this country. So he never filed, and then he's mad that I couldn't finance him because he was an honorable citizen, had a good credit. And I'm like, sorry, buddy, that's not something you believe in. And it's actually quite easy once we show our students how to do it. And again, that empowers them to have record keeping, to monitor their income, to learn about thresholds of income. Like, you only need to make $14,000 before you start paying tax. Did you know that? Like a tax-free savings account. And so it builds a lot of confidence just by doing that seminar. So with my Finance 30s, accountings, we do a seminar where we file taxes for students at our school. One year, a girl got $826 back that she had overpaid. If she wouldn't have filed, here's a high school kid. Who doesn't want $826 in high school, in university, right? It was like, what? But she had overpaid, and that's what happens. But if you don't file, you don't get it back. And there's tons of benefits that can accumulate once you file. So we teach that. Kids need to learn that. Okay, that's my touch. Like, there's so many, I had to cut out about 20 slides when I got going here and narrow it down. But finance, there's 47 modules in the curriculum. And we have 100 teachers on the list that teach at various stages across the province, but still not everybody's learning it. So entrepreneurial spirit is the other piece of talk that I wanted to talk to you about. So entrepreneurial spirit, these are some aspects that come out of the curriculum in the entrepreneurship program. Of course, marketing is fun, financial records, mental wealth, and well-being, those are all related to finance. But the one that I like to talk about is the entrepreneurial spirit. Right, the mindset of an entrepreneur. And so we need our kids to think entrepreneurially, to have entrepreneurial spirit, to try something new, to take risks and fail. And so I'll get a couple of things to think about. I love, again, TED Talks. This one is Angela Duckworth, and it's called The Power of Passion and Perseverance, Grit. And so we need to get, her point is at the end, we need to get gritty about making our kids grittier. Right? Grit is stamina and perseverance and pushing through difficult situations. And we have to admit, the last couple of years were life-changing, especially for our youth, that we retreat from difficult situations, that we don't deal with difficult situations. We saw our students at the school, not come to school for fear, and then that became a bit of a paranoia, and then, they don't want to push through difficult situations and try and overcome those obstacles. And we know that grittier kids are more likely to graduate. That actually is a better indicator of graduation than IQ. And it breeds this growth mindset that if I fail, it's not permanent, that I just keep going. Like if I get the truck stuck yesterday, I just pull it out and keep going. Here we go. So that grittier mindset that we have to be willing to fail. And so this is about teaching the kids that. And she ends her TED Talk with, that's where you come in. That's what we need to teach our kids. So that's a really good TED Talk to watch. I look at if people would have quit, right? If we quit and don't try hard, look at these things that we wouldn't have had. Albert Einstein was, it says 4 years old, his teacher said he wouldn't amount to anything. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. Oprah was told she didn't have a face for television, right? The Beatles, they didn't like their sound. Walt Disney was told he wasn't creative enough. And then, of course, Steve Jobs fired from Apple. So what if some of these would have quit? We can't imagine our world without these icons, right? And I'll just talk a little bit about Steve for a minute. I read his biography. If you get a chance, it's about this thick. It's amazing. He was a bit of a tyrant to work for. I think he was fairly ruthless with his staff, and he had goals. He was very, very much a visionary, right? He saw the touch screen, right? Can you imagine living without a touch screen now? That was something he envisioned. Digital music. He, with the iPod when he came out, revolutionized the music industry overnight, right? Who wants to lug around records and cassettes and VHSs and everything else when you can have digital music and share it on the Apple Music? And so very much a visionary. I love that quote, the ones who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones that do. But I also look at this marathon that he went under. So I actually had an Apple IIc in one of his computers back in the 90s, I guess, or 80s. He went through lots of bumps and bruises along the way in developing his products. So I looked up the share price of Apple just as an indicator of that marathon. So in 1983, the share price of Apple was 12 cents a share. Sure wish we would have saw that coming, right? And so in May of 2016, though, look at how long it endured. That was Lowe. That went through lots of terrible products, bad press. They had anyone have that blue see-through one with a big back on it? That was one of his Apple computers. Lots of bombs along the way. He was a tyrant to work for, so there's, workplace Climate probably wasn't always the best. He was very demanding. But then once it started, right, it really took off. He kind of got his niche. And we can't imagine a world without Apple anymore. The market capitalization of Apple in January here is $2 trillion. And the share price is 129 US. And so the marathon that entrepreneurs go through to develop their idea and build that business is something we need to teach our kids, right? We're in that instant society I talked about, that we want instant gratification. Let's delay that and just see where this goes. Now, our kids need to be entrepreneurial. You need entrepreneurial skills, not just to develop a business for yourself, but to survive the world you're entering, right, in terms of jobs. And you'll notice I put some options. You must leave home and do something for yourself. But I'm kind of not kidding when I say that, because we see kids retreating and not wanting to try hard things. Push them, get them going. Like, they need to go out there and do this. Why? A couple things why I want them to be entrepreneurial is the world of work is changing. We've seen this, and you need to be ready for jobs that are changing. We see that automation, I like to teach this in my work experience program, replacing jobs all the time. Right? So we are seeing jobs being lost through technology. I highlighted bank teller because when I started at the bank, Midtown branch in Saskatoon, one of our jobs, if you've been at Saskatoon branch, I think it's changed a little bit, but it was wall-to-wall tellers. We were lined up at the door. People saw us for cash, withdrawals and paying bills. And one of our jobs was to do ATM demos. We were tasked with, I think I had to do 5 ATM demos. So you came in, Gord came in, cash his little check and say, Gord, can I show you how to use this at the ATM? And no, thank you, I'd rather come see you, lovely lady. And I'm okay, it's fine, right? But the girl behind him, sure, let me show you. I don't want to come into the bank during hours. I work and I want to do this tonight at 6 o'clock. You still go to the bank, don't you? I knew it, yeah. Cash, you're the cash guy. He's the cash king here. That's awesome, right? But this lady that I worked with, she's like, I'm not going to give a bank teller demo. No damn way. They're taking our jobs. And I'm like, they're already here. They're already taking our jobs, right? So you have to change. Did bank tellers become obsolete? No, because guys like Gord keep visiting them. But they also changed their skills. They need to be entrepreneurial, say, okay, my job is on the chopping block here. How can I pivot and do something else? Okay, so automation. We also know that we have to train our kids to be entrepreneurial because they're preparing for jobs that don't exist. Okay, look backwards, you guys. We were all here 10, 20 years ago. The YouTuber job did not exist, right? We are preparing them for jobs that didn't exist. And some of the jobs that we think are untouchable, like, well, I'm a lawyer, I won't be replaced by a robot. Well, you kind of can, because I can get most of that online and not pay a lawyer to do something that I can do my will or whatever, right? Financial advisors would think they're untouchable. Well, no, robo-advisors are a thing, right? I can just get the analytics to do it. I can get some automated program to look at the stock market and buy for me. So we need to think kids to think entrepreneurially and perhaps become an entrepreneur. Create your own future instead of relying on something. But we have to get them to think. We don't know what the future holds, but to think that way is what I want to get at. You had said entrepreneurs are problem solvers, for sure. I had 3 examples. I mean, there's a million examples about how solving problems, but the first one is out of Sweden. So Sweden actually burns their trash. And I know it sounds bad, but they contain the emissions. And what they do is they take the heat from the trash that they're burning and turn into energy. So they power their homes through trash. They burn their trash. Only 4% of the trash ends up in the landfill. So we have a huge landfill problem in North America. And we have an energy problem, right? That we can't have enough, we have, consuming more energy than we have actually the capacity for. I'll just give you an example. My brother-in-law works in Calgary for the energy company there. They had 5, in this last cold blast, they had 5 crises, 5 power warnings or something, that the grid was actually maxed out. And they imported energy from BC, and where else did he say? Maybe Manitoba or something. So we are consuming a ton of energy. If the world continues to go more reliant on energy, they use the heat to turn into energy in Sweden. They actually use so much, or they actually import garbage into Sweden and use it to create this energy. So that's a problem solver, right? We have a problem, let's fix it. I went back in time, 1904, this came from one of my friends, Jill sent me this. King Gillette hated sharpening his razors, so he developed the disposable razor. That's now $3 billion. We can't imagine our world without those, right? Would you shave if you had to sharpen your razor? I wouldn't. So right, but now we have a disposable razor. And then in 2011, this was a creation from India, where they found that the plastic utensils was a problem. So they created utensils that are edible, made out of millet, rice, and wheat, and that they can eat them while they eat their food. And then we solve the plastic crisis. So problem solvers. What are problems that we see, and how can we fix them? And that's the task for youth, right? Us, we can think that way, but we're kind of old and it's hard to come up with ideas. But that's the skills we want you to do, is to come up with solutions to problems and think that way. I can't talk about entrepreneurship without talking about Murad. This is Murad. Some of my students here are in the room. I see Gage and LJ, and who else is here? Who else is in that picture? But anyways, Murad came to visit us in Swift Current. He started AGT Foods in 2001. This is a sprint, this one, because he was named World Entrepreneur of the Year in 2017. And what he saw was an opportunity to sell protein-based food that we grow in Saskatchewan around the world. So let's make it happen. He had to talk a little bit. It was hard at the start, he admit. He had to convince farmers to produce this, but then export it. So right now, well, when he visited us, I think it was 47 countries around the world he exported to. And he continues to make headway and solve problems. So now we know getting to market is a problem. So he forms part of the Arctic Gateway Group to get our lentils and our durum to the Mediterranean up in northern Manitoba. So, he is a true problem solver. And Saskatchewan Spirit is there, and Otto Davidson, right? And so he is a fine example. He supports the football in Regina. He makes his home in Regina and continuing to change the world. And the cool part is selling our products abroad, right? We are good at growing food. We have the land to do it. And so they use what we have and add value to it. So as a farmer, I appreciate his efforts. And the last one I wanted to mention about entrepreneurship is this TED Talk. It says, let's raise kids to be entrepreneurs. This guy, kind of everything I just talked about. He said, there are problems out there that somebody has an idea for. I sent you this video. This one is one of my favorites. Yes. Yeah, and so, some kids don't love school and they struggle a little bit with school. Maybe they are an entrepreneur in the making. Like, get them through, but, tap into that spirit and help them become an entrepreneur. Okay, pros of this is in case scenario. This is my icing on the cake situation. I believe that business education is an equalizer. It's regardless of where you come from. It's regardless of your age, your race, your religion, your upbringing, whether you come from a newcomer to Canada, the division between economic classes. Business education is an equalizer. Just because where you came from doesn't mean where you're going to be. You came from a low-income household, you can create a future for yourself. In fact, you might come from a high-income household and have no idea how to manage your money. I look at it as an equalizer for across race and religion. Newcomers to Canada all need to know. My friend, her parents are from India. When they came to Canada, they were given a credit card and they thought it was free money. They didn't understand, and so they got themselves into trouble very quickly. Mabel told me that story. So it's an equalizer, and again, we are a free and democratic society, right? Everyone can prosper when given the chance, but if you don't have the knowledge, how are you going to do that? And so knowledge is power, and I believe, in fact, that first line, it's a human right. I gave out some booklets with some write-up. It's basically everything kind of that you can take with you to sell this, right, this idea. But it's a basic human right, because we have access to housing and food as a way to support ourselves. That's through financial literacy and entrepreneurship. I'll just touch quickly on this. My friend Crystal worked for this bank. So it was in Holland, and she did microfinance to women in Bangladesh. Crystal's lived all over the world. She's currently in Brazil. She's from Moose Jaw. This was the most impoverished area she's ever seen. It was awful. She would actually visit women that lived on garbage dumps outside of cities in Bangladesh, because it's very lucrative to live on a garbage dump because rich people throw out nice stuff. And so she would give microfinance credit. So it's small finance, $200, $300 loans to women to start businesses. And so the women that she met with would do, what they were selling was helping them establish cell phone companies. So they would sell cell phones to other women. And once you get a cell phone in your hand and internet, you have access to commerce and education and life-changing. So this bank, they said to date, 10 million borrowers helped, $38 million lent out, 97% are female. So it's changing their lives and creating a future for themselves through business education and entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship, I believe, is a path to reconciliation too. Right? This has to be top of mind when we work towards truth and reconciliation going forward. We can't talk about this without Kendall Netmaker. So Kendall is a Bachelor of Education, was a teacher. He's extremely accomplished. He's an entrepreneur who's built a business for himself with Nichi Gear. He sells products and then gives back to help kids in sports. So he actually talked about his starting. His mom took him off the reserve. They went to school. He was working in this school and he wanted to play on the sports team. And his mom didn't have money. So I believe it was a doctor in the town that gave him money to help play on that sports team. And so he helps, what was it? His car. Oh yeah, drove him too. Helped him create an opportunity, a future for himself. So he sees himself as a gift. He has a gift. If you ever see him speak, mind-blowing stuff, he's an entrepreneur that has a gift to help heal, right? And move forward and create opportunity for people, for his people. Of course, Chief Cadmus Delorum, the chief at Cowessess First Nation. He's got a Master of Public Policy, a Public Admin, a Bachelor in Business. If you see this guy speak, I saw him at Regina Chamber of Commerce, and entrepreneurial for his people. He's, chief spokesperson in terms of truth and reconciliation, a message of hope, and to create a future economically for themselves. This is Thomas Benjo. Do you know Thomas Benjo? So Thomas is a graduate from the business program at First Nations University. I've recently met Thomas. He worked for the Royal Bank in Aboriginal markets, and he's now the CEO of FHQ Developments. And so he believes in creating wealth as a path to reconciliation for Indigenous people. And then the last one, I believe you might know her. She's a graduate from the University of Saskatchewan. She's a B.Ed. It's called Oasis Boutique. And she's found a way to create a business for herself. That sweatshirt says teacher, and then it's Cree for teacher. And so there was a great write-up on her. She used entrepreneurship as a way to celebrate her upbringing and her roots and representing her people. So, there's tons and tons of stories, but it's a path to reconciliation, to create a future for themselves. And I do want to acknowledge Edward's work, the certificate that you guys have in Aboriginal business that leads into a bachelor's degree, and your Rawlinson Center for Indigenous students to work with and get help. So kudos to you guys for leading that way and finding a safe space for students to come here and study. So I really believe business education is a pathway to that too. Okay, the power of education, we know it's powerful. That was the other part of my speech. And we look at some of these things that education does for people: increases income, reduces poverty, boosts economic growth, right? Those are all factors that influence. And so that is part of this, what I'm talking about here. Some cons are part of a case presentation. I said that there's pros, but there's only one con I can see is not doing it, right? Not doing what I'm talking about can lead to further anxiety, family abuse, substance abuse, relationship problems, health problems. Employers see reduced productivity. People are at work worried about their money. Things, like I said, now are worse than when I left banking, and we need to do something. We need to fix this Band-Aid. Okay, part of a case thing is then recommending what to do. This is an interview. I usually get my students in my class to interview adults in their life, financial questions. And one of the questions I ask is there something you would do over again in your life? Without a doubt, over than 50%, everybody says, I wish I would have invested more. I wish I would have started earlier. Everybody talks about that when the responses come back from the adults. Nobody says, oh, geez, I wish I would have borrowed more money. Right? They never say that. They wish they would have started sooner. So let's get kids learning about this. I asked my business teacher group what their students are telling them, and Margot's here. She said the Entrepreneurship 30 was one of the most important classes she took in high school, helping her get with her future. Campbell Collegiate student Jill is one of our executives, teaches in Campbell, and her student took her Finance 30 course, turned it into an entrepreneurship. So she has Shiroka. It's a tutoring. If you look at it, it's great. She's got little people along the bottom. She runs a business. B, as smart as you can be. She's got a little B, right? And so she's learned a lot and turned it into a business, one of the most important classes. I asked one of my students to tell me what business education meant to her, and it meant the world in the transferable skills too, right? Not just creating opportunities, but to creating analysis skills, critical thinking skills that are transferable to anywhere in your life. And also, on my recommendation, we see self-employment and entrepreneurship is actually essential to the Canadian economy, especially in recovery as we come out of this pandemic, because we know employers create jobs. So if I create a business, I hire you, and money goes on. In fact, if you study economics, they talk about a multiplier effect. So every dollar I spend multiplies in the economy, and let's just say five's a number we used to talk about. If I spend $1, it turns into $5 in the economy. It's very circular. And so we need people to create businesses to help us recover. And then that in turn turns into employment and jobs and fuels everyone, right? Because jobs is the number one thing that people need. So in terms of recommendations, why I need your help is in 2020, this was written by the Saskatchewan Chamber of Commerce, sent this letter to the ministry. And they recommended 4 things. So the first one says the Saskatchewan Ministry make financial literacy mandatory. We have not done that one yet. Number 2, that they develop financial literacy resources. That's been done. We finished that in 2019 and rolled it out, and now we're teaching more and more all the time. Number 3, I've got a check mark that would become part of the practical and applied arts curriculum, which we've done. And number 4, we still haven't done, and that is to train teachers to instruct this course. So those are my recommendations, these 2. So help drive student demand, and then help train educators. So I've got chicken and egg, which one comes first? We've kind of done the student demand part, and so I'll talk a little bit about how we're going to implement this going forward. So trained educators, there's ideas we have. So at the top, a Bachelor of Education you could take, and then take a certificate here at Edwards, a 1-year certificate. At U of S, U of R, you can do that. Take a Bachelor of Commerce and a Bachelor of Education. I did that. So I took a second degree in Calgary. You could take a Bachelor of Education with a business major. That exists in UBC, but it does not exist in Saskatchewan. So those are in my ask on the bottom. So the top 3 are, we're doing the bottom one, a combined degree, B.Comm, B.Ed. So where they're joined, kind of like your, what's that? Well, I just was going to say law, right? Right, business law. You have a business degree and a law degree, right? So combine the degree. So Lisa teaches in Swiftgren. She has that from University of Lethbridge. Let's do that here. Why don't we reinstate? So U of R used to have a business education major in their education program. They cut it. Lack of enrollment. What? Right? So we have more business classes than ever, but no students taking this. So go in to be a teacher, and Margot and I are going to retire and replace us and teach around the province. And so we need to reinstate that business major. We've talked. It's a long process, right? And we have an education college over here. Why don't they have a major in business? Part of it's due to demand, right? If we have low enrollment, they can't keep it running. We get that. But part of it is creating that might take a long time. Now, time's ticking away here. So that's not a quick solution, but something we'd love to see. And then I asked, the U of R suggested this business electives in a Bachelor of Education program too. So if you're keen on being a teacher, throw in some business electives here from Edwards and learn just some of these essential things. So there's ways we can train teachers. We spend a lot of time putting together resources. I've got a Google Drive. I'm kind of a digital hoarder that I share with anyone and everyone. Put it on Facebook. Go access this. Teach. Can I use this? Absolutely. None of it. Just share away and teach this to kids, please. So that's one of our recommendations. Student demand is the other one. We see students taking the course. You'll see a huge jump from when it was a locally developed option to when it rolled out. So 2019, we rolled it out to schools. The only number I could access, the number of students in Saskatchewan from grades 10 to 12, was in 2019, 2020. So these are numbers from the ministry. And so at that time, 18.8% of 10 to 12 students had taken this class. We have 180,000 students, though, in K to 12. So we're starting at grade 11. And that's fine, but we have more work to do. The other one I wanted to add into student demand is, what about here in university? Right? I have a friend who went through commerce with me. I took a finance degree, he took marketing. That's great, but he didn't learn personal finance, didn't grow up with personal finance. Got his marketing degree. We were in ISEC together, so we were all into international stuff. And Ryan wanted to go to Columbia for 6 months. So off he goes, graduates, and his student loan, let's deal with that when I come home. Didn't realize that would begin repayment. So he came back to Saskatchewan, was already in collection with his student loan, and phoned me at the Royal Bank and asked me for help. Well, no, I couldn't help him. And he's in marketing, but didn't learn finance, didn't learn personal finance. I was talking with someone here today, too, about being in marketing and not necessarily learning personal finance. So student demand is not just in high school. It's at college, it's at trades. Ask Polytech could stand to do this and teach their trades kids that are taking apprenticeship programs and future entrepreneurs in business. And so we have, I think, these classes. It's let's get more kids taking it. Okay, just wanted to give you a little bit of perspective. I know I'm probably running over time. I didn't keep my timer going, but how are we doing outside of Saskatchewan? So in the States, 27 states require schools to at least offer the class. In terms of requirement to graduate, it's now up to 15 states require it to graduate. Now, how are they doing in mentally? In 2003, there was a survey done just here in January. 58% adults felt good. Perhaps as some of the adults didn't take financial literacy, but I was positively optimistic. About 70% of teens felt good about their finances. So perhaps it's trickling down. The kids are feeling empowered. You've got lots of resources that they feel good about it. How did they do it in the States? Well, this is just in Florida. What they did is take some of their required electives that I mentioned and just shave one of them off and add finance in there. So we could do that here. I go back to where I was. We have 5 Englishes and 2 practical and applied and 9 electives. Because finance is in this practical and applied one, why don't we, I don't want to hang English out to dry, but maybe we make an English 10, an English 20, and English 30, and throw a few down into the practical applied and make one of those ones a finance class, right? Because we could pull out some of these and make one of them one of those electives. That's just a suggestion, but that would change the requirements to graduate, which is a massive shift. Now, fortunately, we have a couple of options. I wanted to also shout out again to Edwards. COM 101 is a dual credit that you can take in high school. And I know lots of kids that we talk about taking, and probably lots in this room have taken this class. That is an option. But I also know, actually just skip ahead to this. Right now, there's a curriculum advisory committee that's looking at requirement to graduate. So this is perfect timing that you invited me here. I know they've talked about, I've talked to people on this list. I think some of them are obsolete, like Steve McClellan's no longer with the SAS Chamber, and some of these positions have changed around, but it's on the radar. Now, are they going to change what they're doing? Do they even know this is a concern? We've been very vocal in raising our voice, and I'm asking for your help to do the same. I just want to give you, just a perspective on what's happening around the province. And across Canada, no one has required financial literacy yet. Manitoba has some classes. They actually allow students to major in business in high school, kind of like a French immersion designation. But they can say that, tell an employer, I majored in business in high school if they take 8 out of the 12 classes. That's cool. Ontario has a pretty decent group of courses, but it's optional. Kids can pick. Alberta has this cluster of business classes that they can take, again, optional. I found just Denmark and Sweden, because I love Sweden. They both have required mandatory financial literacy programs. So there's work being done, but certainly not enough. Okay, and that brings me to my end, my ask. I hear all the time, I wish I had this in high school, Cindy. What you're doing in Safeway, at Walmart, at hockey games, almost daily, people say to us, oh my goodness, what you're teaching is so important. I wish you had this in high school. Let's change that. So people are saying, wow, am I ever glad I had this in high school, that I had the opportunity to take this. So that's where you guys come in. And that's where I'll leave this. Tell your friends, your family, if you agree with what I've said here today, if you believe in this topic. Tell high school officials, school divisions, post-secondaries, anyone who will listen. Government officials, of course, need to change the requirements to graduate if that's what we want, to make this change happen. So thank you for listening, thank you for coming, and thank you for your support. Good time. Probably don't have good time.
Now we got, she speaks fast, she covers a lot. My hands still go around quite dramatically. But we'll take a couple quick questions, because I know we've got a few other things.
Yes.
Like handing out cash. But if anybody has a quick question for Cindy? Yep.
If you were to start everything over again, what would you do?
Personally? I know I'm stumped for words, hard to believe. I don't think I would. You know, an entrepreneur would tell you, we learn through our mistakes. Would I have married a farmer? I hung out at the College of Agriculture, so I think that was what I had in mind. I have to say, I'm really, instead of what I do over, I'm glad I started at the bank. I cannot underscore what I learned at the bank. And I didn't end up continuing because I felt driven to go somewhere else. But consider a career in financial services if you wanted to someplace to start. They're short of staff, and what I learned there was invaluable. And so we learned through our mistakes. So far, so good, Aiden. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I want to ask, what would you say is your best investment? Like, what would you say is the way of best investment right now?
Oh, well, you know, I'm no longer watching. I'm now relying on the experts of others, advice of others. I'm just going to flip ahead to just something to consider. I'm not investment advice, but any investment advisor would tell you an index fund right? This is a global tech fund, some kind of general mutual fund that's passive, that can, stand the test of time. They can build and accumulate. Because when the markets are down, you dollar cost average, you buy lower. When the markets are up, you're buying at a high price. So invest $50 a month. Invest regularly and invest often. So if the market's up, you buy at a higher price. If the market's down, you buy more, you get more shares. So, there's a saying, when's the best time to plant a tree? Now. Same with investing. Start now into an investment fund. Just walk into your branch. Somebody was commenting to me, well, there's nobody helps me when I'm not the big, I don't have $1 million to invest. Who's going to help me? Walk in and ask for help. Insist, you guys know now enough to walk in and ask for help. Say, just want to go into a general mutual fund. They'll sell you one. It's balanced fund. Just go into a balanced fund. It's got stocks, international, Canada, US, some aggressive, some safe. Just go into a general balanced fund, buy regularly, start now, is my advice, yeah.
Last one.
For you at the high school, what do you think prevents students at the high school level from taking something like financial literacy?
I think I've been asked lots of times, is this a math class? Like they think it's mathematical. It's not at all. In fact, I don't want to use math. I'll use the calculators online. I think they're scared off by the fear of the unknown. It's still relatively new. I'm happy to say we have 4 full classes in my school. We have, Jill said, I think 7 financial literacy classes at Campbell, right? I think knowledge is power and people learning about what's to offer. But I think they're scared off because they think it's hard. And I'm like, not at all. Ask my students. It's fun. We tell stories, watch videos. Complete your mark, you get a good mark. Like, right? I think they're scared of they think it's hard. It's not at all. In fact, I'll just give you feedback on one student, then we can be done. He said to me at the end, I said, what do you think about finance? He's like, Mrs. Lowe, I almost didn't take this class. Like, what if I wouldn't have taken this class? I learned so much. Like, I wouldn't have known all that stuff. He was almost having a panic attack because what if he wouldn't have taken it? He learned so much. So I think they don't realize what they don't know. Yeah.
All right, thank you.